So is Errol Spence a top 50 welterweight? Is he a top 50 welterweight? I don't know. That's a good question. That's a really, really good question. Hit that like button for your boy. We on Bushido Boxing. This is where we're going to be for the remainder of 2023. Errol Spence, man. Is Errol Spence a top 50 welterweight? Really, really good question, right? And we may want to throw Crawford in there too, but we should do that on a live stream one of these days when we talking about it. And we can do a thing with all the welterweights and where would they be placed in the top 50, right? But Errol Spence, I guess he was on the Porterweight podcast, and salute to According to Boxing, and he's on Twitter. Check him out. But the Porterweight podcast, they talked: is Errol Spence a top 25 all-time welterweight? Let's see what they had to say.
To say Errol Spence is like terrible, and he's not one of the best welterweights, not top 10, but top 25 welterweights all time. It's crazy.
So the guy from the Porterweight podcast is pretty much saying that Errol Spence should be in the top 25. That's a really good question. That's a really good question. Now, if we want to talk about Crawford, I think it'd be a little bit easier because I think you could place him somewhere. It'll be easier to place Crawford somewhere. Some people may even say Crawford is one of the top welterweights. Some may say he's a top 25, top 10. But Errol Spence, where would you place Errol Spence? It'll be hard to place Errol Spence anywhere based off that last performance, which was just so lopsided. It was so lopsided. Where would he be placed in a welterweight list, right? All the top welterweights of all time. And here goes, actually, salute to According to Boxing. He has the top 50 welterweights of all time to date. Upon request from the last post, Spence not being top 25. In no particular order, here the top. So he don't believe that Errol Spence is a top 25 or 50, right? But he says, here's the names of the top welterweights of all time, right? In no order. Sugar Ray Robinson, Henry Armstrong, Terrence Crawford, Jose Napoles. Hopefully I said it right. Kid Gavilan, Emil Griffin, Jack Britton, Ted the Kid Lewis, Ray Leonard, Barney Ross, Jimmy McLaren, Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather, Mickey Walker, Joe Walcott, Tommy Ryan, Tommy Hearns, Luis Rodriguez, Carmen Bastillo, Fredis Zivik, Pernell Whitaker, Twin Sullivan, Buddy McGirt, Tom DeMarco, Lloyd Honegan, Coco Kidd, Dave Shade, Joe Dundee, Bill Graham, Patty Duffy, Matthew Matthews, Benny Perrette, Charlie Burley, Oscar De La Hoya, Felix Trinidad, Shane Mosley, Curtis Cokes, Jackie Fields, Donald Curry, Young Colbert III, Roberto Duran, Carlos Polimino, Mysterious Billy Smith, Wilfredo Benitez, Pepito Chavez, Ruby Ferns, Honey Melody, Marlon Sterling, Lou Bruller, I can't pronounce his name. What is it? Bruller. Oh, I can't pronounce that. And Harry Lewis. Wow. Salute to him, man, for getting all those names out there, right? Now, some of those names may be unfamiliar to some of you guys. All of them may be familiar to you, some of you guys, or all you guys. But where does Errol Spence fit in these names, right? I think you got to put Errol Spence somewhere in there, bro. I think we got to put him in there somewhere. He got to be put in there somewhere, bro. Now, whether he's a top 25, I don't know, right? Yeah. So Errol Spence, where does he fit in with the top 50 welterweights names here? I mean, me personally, I think you could put Errol Spence somewhere at least in the top 50. I think you can. So I disagree with According to Boxing, because really, if you want to say that, bro, let's be honest, you guys. If you want to really diminish Errol Spence and not even put him in the top 50, then you kind of diminishing Terrence Crawford's win, bro. You somewhat diminishing. Now we know that was a well-earned, hard-fought victory for Crawford, right? Crawford went through a lot to get the fight. He went in there and overperformed, in my opinion. But to say that Errol Spence is not even a top 50, I think he could fit in there with some of these guys, bro. I think he could fit in there with some of these guys. I mean, I'm just being honest. We honest over here on Bushido Box. And I think Errol Spence could fit in there with some of these guys, man. Yeah, I think he can. I mean, there's where wouldn't you where I mean, I think if you match him up with some of these guys, especially some of these old school dudes, Errol Spence probably take him. You know what I'm saying? And it's really those top 50 lists and shit, man. That's one of those things to where it's like you got to really seen these fighters fight. You got to have seen them fight. You got to see who they fought. How was they performing in their primes? You got to look at their skill sets and everything else they bring as a fighter to really determine this. But at first glance, I think Errol Spence does belong in the top 50, at least in the top 50. At least. I mean, just going off some of these names, bro. Right? Just going off some of these names. I mean, Errol Spence did his thing, right? He did his thing at welterweight. He only got beat by Bud. You know? So, if anything, I think Errol Spence is a top 50 welterweight. Now, when we talking Bud, Bud may be, he's definitely in the top 50. Bud probably even is in the top 25. Top 10, top 5, you know, we have to really break it down. Because then when we start to get to the top 10 and top 5, we got guys like Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Floyd, you know, Manny, Sugar Ray Robinson, right? So when we looking at, and then we got, you know, Shane Mosley, Oscar, you know, when we start talking about those names, you know, when you start to get to the top 5, you got Wilfredo Benitez, you know, guys like that. You got to really, really think about it. But if you ask me personally, I think Crawford should be at least in the top 10. But we go talk about it on a live stream, man. I think Bud should be in the top 10. You know what I'm saying? At least top 15, you know, at least top 15. But I'll put him in the top 10. I don't know where, right? I have to really break it down. Because when we start talking about Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Ray Robinson, then things get really tricky, right? You got to put some respect on those names. You know what I'm saying? Henry Armstrong. You got to put some respect on that. Emil Griff. You got to put respect on those names. So that's something that we'll have to really break down one day. But as far as Errol Spence, I think he definitely definitely deserves to be somewhere in the top 50, bro. I think he definitely deserves to be somewhere in the top 50. And that's just me being honest. Tell me what you guys think. Where does Errol Spence, the big fish, where does he fit in as a top 50 welterweight of all time? Like, subscribe, holla at your boy. Peace out.